Hey, Larken Rose here. There are plenty of people bashing the loony, stupid notion of DEI and all the emphasis on that, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is not about diversity, and it's not about equity, and it's not about inclusion. It's sort of about equity, which is a crappy goal. Equality is a different thing. Equity is we want the same outcome regardless of like what went before. And that's insane and bogus and stupid. Now, it's easy, as long as you don't think about it very much, to think, well, it sounds like a good thing. If there are groups that are sort of disadvantaged and they're behind for whatever reason, then isn't it good to like try to help them out? For the people who are in those groups and maybe they feel disadvantaged. They feel like it's a bigger hurdle they have to get over to succeed in whatever. Well, depends how you go about that. For example, if there was some group, like the NAACP, their name is National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Well, there's two ways you could go about trying to do that. One is, can we invest in like education systems or training for people who, grew up in some poor neighborhood and where the schools suck and they couldn't afford stuff, and like let's see if we can put money and resources into training them to know how to do whatever it is that they're interested, being mechanics or architects or whatever the heck it is. And I don't mind that in the slightest. Now, there are a lot of cases where even that gets sort of ridiculous. But if the goal is we want to help these underprivileged kids sort of have a head start in things by helping them to get an education and they can learn a trade and whatever it is, okay, that's cool. I'm all in favor of that. Now, at some point, even that gets a little bit ridiculous because part of the biases in which groups do better in which fields is just cultural things. Like, are there anybody like pushing, we need to like put our resources behind getting more Asian people into the NBA? Like, do they want to be in the NBA? I mean, maybe some of them do. It doesn't really seem to be what most of them are trying for. And then, there's the height thing and everything. Does anybody think that there's some like moral societal need to make sure that the percentage of people in the NBA who are from like Asian ancestry matches the percentage of people on the planet, which is like a huge percentage? There's a lot of people in Asia and China and Japan and all over the place. There's billions of people. We won't give up until 30% of the NBA is Asian. Well, why? What a stupid goal. Maybe they want to do other things. So the idea that an imbalance in outcomes is automatically the result of something like malicious and evil is patently stupid to begin with. But there are still reasons to say, well, here's this kid, smart kid, hardworking, good work ethic and all that, but didn't start with a whole lot of advantages or connections, doesn't know. So if somebody like, here's a place to start learning, you can be an apprentice over here and learn these skills or, whatever you're interested in. I don't mind that at all. But the other way that you can try to help a group get ahead, instead of trying to help them get up to par with the skills and knowledge of whoever's already in the industry, is to drag down the standards of the industry so you can include people who aren't really qualified and they aren't the best. Now, that is what DEI actually results in, and it's obnoxious. What a lot of people complain about, one side that sort of the most obvious side, is if white people or Asian people, because Asian people are often just left out of the mix because, statistically they're, I know it's a cliche, but like their math and education scores tend to be pretty dang high. They tend to be higher than whites. So nobody is saying we have to like help them get a certain percentage. So if there's, to even leave white people out of it, if there's some Asian kid and some black kid competing to get into some college or to get some job, And the Asian kid is like, you gave him a head start just because of the color of his skin, and you dragged me back, even though if we competed and I was better, like my grades were better, my skills were better, I know more about this, how the hell is that fair to me? Now, white people aren't allowed to say that for the most part, because it's like, well, historically, some reason why it's okay to discriminate against you because something that you didn't do in the past and stuff. But if you do it the example of like Asian versus black, if there's two candidates for a job or someone getting accepted to a college or whatever it is, and this one clearly has better scores, but this one has the right skin color, like, yeah, this guy is perfectly justified going, what the hell? You're literally dragging me back because of an accident of birth I had nothing to do with. You're dragging me back because of the color of my skin. That's racist and stupid and obnoxious. But I think there's something way more destructive than the people getting, like, directly ripped off. And that is something I don't hear many people talk about. It does get mentioned now and then. DEI isn't just sort of unfair to the people who get replaced. It's unfair to the people who are getting a out of proportion boost, who are saying, well, we're going to push you ahead, because what does that actually do? If you have a DEI policy, we're making sure to hire more women and more blacks and more homosexuals and more transgenders and more whatever. Okay, are you going out and finding the most qualified people and they happen to be that? No, because that doesn't match DEI at all. The goal of DEI is the outcome, and their goal is absolutely not finding the best people. Because finding the best people with the best skills at whatever the job is may end up with a very biased, not at all statistically even outcome. For example, in the NFL, are Asians statistically represented in the NFL? No. Are blacks way overrepresented as compared to their percentage? Yeah. Was that a result of DEI? No. It's because a bunch of them worked their asses off to get really freaking good at playing football, because they were interested in that, and they put in the time and the work and the effort to get that stinking good at it. Like, in that case, would anybody say, there's too many black people in the NFL, we gotta, like, get more Asians and more whites? Like, who the hell would say that? The people who are in the NFL who are black aren't there because they got hired for being black. They're there because they're really frickin' good at football, like better than anybody else in the world. So that's totally a talent-based decision, and the outcome is hugely statistically skewed, and it should be. Like in the U.S., I think blacks are like 13% of the population. It may have changed a little bit. Well, they're a hell of a lot more than 13% in the NFL, and they should be. Because the people who tried out and worked hard and had that interest and developed the skills and the talent, a huge percentage of them are black, and a minuscule percentage happen to be Asian. Is that because somebody's like discriminating against Asians in the NFL, or discriminating against whites? No, and there's tons of white players there who are also really damn good too. It's just the natural outcome of people following what they were interested in, and the ones who worked their butts off to get there, combined with whatever natural talents and natural physique they already had. Like if somebody's born 7 feet tall, yeah, you have an advantage in the NBA over lots of people who are like over everybody in Mexico, pretty much. So the idea that the outcome should be certain percentages is just patently stupid. But here's the most despicable part of it. Well, second most despicable part is that you're literally endangering people. Like when it comes to the airlines pushing DEI, we don't want the best people in control of these gigantic machines that are flying hundreds of human beings through the air. We want to give certain people a boost because of their sexual preference or because of the color of their skin. Well, that's stupid and evil, and you're literally endangering people. If for whatever reason, most of the top candidates for pilot are white men, then have most of the pilots be white men. And if the time comes that other people and other categories dominate more, okay. There's actually an awesome example, which is the baseball. For a long time, it was just overtly racist. This is decades ago, where everybody playing baseball in the pros was white, which is kind of stupid. And then one team was like, there's this guy over here. He's really damn good at baseball, and he's black. And now I don't pretend to know everything, behind the scenes and what the mentality was, but I'm guessing somebody thought our goal is to be the best baseball team. That guy's really damn good at baseball. Let's hire him. And lots of people may go, rah, 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 we can't have colored folk in our game. Well, screw you and your racist stupidity. Talent won out. And in that case, it was up against an actual stupid disadvantage of we're just arbitrarily deciding this is going to be a white sport. Like, why? What a stupid idea. But that stupid idea fell by the wayside because people with more talent make a team better. And now, there's tons of black people and there's tons of Mexican people who happen to be interested in baseball and try really hard and work really hard and get really good at it. Like, that's how it should be. And there doesn't have to be some percentage outcome like, you aren't enough white people in baseball. What the hell do I care? Every team should be trying to hire the best players they can get. In baseball, football, basketball, anything else. And not giving a crap about anything else. So, the second worst result of DEI is that it may literally endanger lives, which is pretty damn bad. Like, if you have airline pilots and you didn't get the best people for the job, you intentionally promoted some people who were not the best, but had a certain skin color or a certain, sexual preference, you're a psychotic piece of shit for doing that. Now, again, compare that to people saying, well, can we find, women or black people or whatever who are interested in being pilots and put them through the training and do what we can to get them up to the level where they are the best? Okay, I have no problem at all with that. And then when they are the best, and then they get chosen, cool, excellent. It's not like I need a white guy flying the plane. I don't give a crap what you look like. I give a crap if you know how to fly a plane without crashing it. If I'm going to be on it, thank you very much. But here's the most insidious evil part that a lot of people don't even notice about this. So a lot of people are viewing this, the whole DEI thing of black people are like, we want our advantage because blah, blah, blah. And white people are like, well, that's not fair. You should be choosing the best. And they're fighting against each other. And people don't notice, first of all, division is what ruling classes do. Divide and conquer is what they always, always, always do. They need us mad at each other and they need us resenting each other. But to me, the most despicable thing is far more subtle. Because if you're telling, so you have, let's say you have some DEI policy and whatever the hell it is, college admissions, being a pilot, whatever. What are you doing to the mentality and the assumptions of both sides? Okay, the people, the white people can think, well, that's obnoxious. I did better than that guy and he got the job because he's black and I'm white. That's kind of rude and stupid. Okay, that naturally tends to make him resentful of the guy who got the job. Now, he might be stupid and become resentful of black people in general, which is dumb, pack mentality. He might do that, or he might just be like, this is unfair because that group is getting a head start in what should be a open competition to see who the best are. What does it do to the mentality of the people who are getting that boost? What is it telling them? Here's what it's telling them, and this is fucking evil and profoundly racist. It is telling them, we don't expect you to be able to actually compete on a fair playing field. We don't expect you to be capable of putting in the time and the effort and the work to really get good at this, at least not to get as good as white people. You need us to give you that boost ahead, because on your own, you can't possibly compete with white people. That is what this crap, even if it's just subliminal and implied instead of stated outright, that is what this crap teaches black people or any group that it's trying to give a boost to. It's saying you can't possibly compete, you can't become the best without us helping you, without us cheating in your favor and giving you an unfair advantage over those people. That foundationally implies that blacks are inferior, or women are inferior, or whatever group is getting this boost. Nothing is more destructive to just a person's mentality and psychology than reinforcing the idea of you can't do it yourself. And you won't do it yourself. You need us to give you a head start against the people who are better than you. You think those sides are going to be getting along and be buddy-buddies? Or is there going to be resentment in both directions? Resentment from the person who got the boost and's like, yeah, I needed the boost because everything was unfair, and they keep telling me everything's unfair, and I'm so focused on my victim status, whether it's real or not, that I didn't focus on being the best I could. And then the other side is going to be resentful of like, how come they get a head start and I can literally be better qualified and I don't get it because of the color of my skin? That's obnoxious. This is designed to create division and racial conflict. That is why they are doing it. It has nothing to do with compassion or fairness or equality or anything of the sort. It's just racist bullshit. And it isn't just racist bullshit against white people, it's racist bullshit against black people. Because it's telling them, we don't expect you to be able to compete. We don't really think you're good enough on your own unless we give you a head start. Imagine what that message does to like any child growing up. Imagine just is on a football field. It's like, okay, here's the high school football team or something. And you go to some kid and say, yeah, we did the tryouts for the football team. You kind of sucked. There were lots of people better than you, but we're going to put you on the team instead of them because you can't do it on your own. Like, you can't be expected to actually work hard enough to be the best. So it's okay for you to not try that hard. It's okay for your self-image to be shit. It's okay for us to trample on your self-respect by implying that you're not capable of doing it yourself without us giving you a boost. Like, what? If you do that, you're the shittiest coach in the world. Like, actual coaches who do good, they reward you for doing a good job, and they're constantly saying you can do better than that. You can try harder. You can get better at that skill. I'm going to point out the things in, if you're playing football, point out the skills that you're not so great at, the things that you do wrong, work on that, get better. Not, I'll give you a boost because you kind of suck and can't really do it on your own. Like, if any coach did that, you're the shittiest coach in the world. Instead of just work your ass off, quit bitching and moaning, get out there and get better at it. And it's work, and you whining about how you're a victim isn't going to make you better at anything. And it's not going to make you better at anything, even if you really are a victim. And that's a hugely important thing, is that when somebody has the victim mentality of, I can't get ahead because the world is against me, whether that is true or not is completely irrelevant to the damage that mentality has. Because there have been tons of people who did have huge disadvantages. And things were skewed not at all in their favor. And there were gigantic unfair advantages against them. And the people in that position have a choice of either going, this is unfair, I'm not going to try, I'm just going to whine about it. Even if it be totally justified, how is that going to end for them? Is that going to help them? Or is a better approach for their sake to say, yeah, things are unfair. People are going to be rude to me and obnoxious to me for whatever reason. It's not going to be fair. I'm going to have to work twice as hard as the other guy because of stupid prejudices. And I'm going to go kick my own ass to make myself so good they can't ignore me. That is actually empowering for that individual. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't point out unfairness and stupidity and racism and that stuff when it actually exists. But if you define yourself by your victim status, you already failed. Instead of saying, well, I'm going to keep trying given the situation I'm in, including the unfairness, including the... And there's a billion kinds of unfairness. It's like, there's people born with one leg or no legs, and I see people like doing track and field who don't have legs. Like from the knee down, they have those cool sort of springy things. And they're just doing miraculous things. And they're fast and they're graceful and they're gymnastic and stuff. Meanwhile, there's tons of people who were born with all their pieces and still have all their pieces and are sitting on the couch being lazy. And by the way, to some extent, that includes me. I'm not as good as that guy, like athletically, because I didn't put in the effort. I have legs, and I'm still nowhere near as good as him because I didn't put in the effort and he did. Now, would he have been justified saying, well, this is totally unfair, I don't have my freaking legs? Yeah, that would be justified. Would it do him any good? No. Sit in a corner and whine at the universe? Completely justifiably whine at the universe for how horribly unfair that is? Well, you can do that. It's not going to help you. So while that mentality is completely understandable and justified, it doesn't help the individual. When somebody else comes along and says, no, don't try. Don't get up and try again. Don't just work your ass off twice as hard. Let me give you a head start. You can't do it without me. That is obnoxious, and that is profoundly evil. Because when, in this case, the political left talks to black people that way, and whether they say it outright or just imply it in everything they're doing, they send the message that, well, you can't be expected to compete with white people unless we give you a head start. First of all, that's not true. Nice racist bullshit. Second of all, that is trying to make them emotionally dependent on these parasitical political pieces of shit. You can't get ahead. You can't be successful unless you beg us to use the power of government to give you a boost. That is training people to think like subjects and to have loyalty to, yeah, you do it for me so I don't have to. Nothing is more destructive to the human soul and human potential than that. Than training people to not try and telling them, don't bother to try. It won't help. The whole world is against you, and the only way you're going to overcome that is by letting me give you a head start. Ew, you evil piece of shit. And that reminds me of the thing of when there are people in need, like people who are poor of any race, decent people can look at that and go, I want to help them out. Like they're having a tough time right now. I want to help them out. My goal, my fondest wish is for them to get to a point where they don't need my help anymore. So I don't want them feeling beholden to me. I don't want them feeling bad about themselves. I don't want them feeling like freeloaders, but I do want to help them out right now because they're in a tough situation, in the hopes that they will get out of that tough situation and be taking care of themselves and be able to feel good about themselves and be independent and successful and all that stuff. That's one way that people can approach people who are down on their luck for whatever reason. Another way people can approach that, an evil, insane, horribly destructive way, is there's someone down on their luck. I'm going to show how good I am by helping them out, and I'm going to make sure they can't ever get out of that situation. I'm going to keep them dependent on me so I can keep looking noble and caring, and I'll make sure to stamp them down so they're always dependent. They're always helpless. They're always hopeless. That is what a government welfare state does on purpose. It is trying to create a dependent class that will always vote for the collectivist government that does that. It's not trying to help those people get ahead and get to the point where they don't feel like they need help, where they can do it on their own. And there's nothing more destructive to the human soul than teaching somebody you can't ever do it on your own. Everything's unfair. You're doomed unless you let me run your life for you and take care of you for you and give you head start here and there. And that's why, on a economic individual case basis, yeah, people can complain about the diversity, equity, and inclusion bullshit because it's just obviously, blatantly, by definition, racist stupidity to say, well, you did better than him, but you don't get the job because you have the wrong skin color. It's like, okay, you asshole. Like, what? Why is that any better by reversing the skin color? But the way more insidious, destructive, horrible effect of it is actually on the side that is getting the benefit of the boost or the handout or the head start, because you're training those people to think you can't do it alone. On your own, it doesn't matter how hard you try. Like, there's this glass ceiling or there's this, and you can't ever get ahead. And instead of overcoming whatever obstacles you see, whether they're real or imagined or some combination of that, you should just get into the mindset and stay in the mindset of a victim who can't possibly take care of yourself. Get into the mindset of a whiny child complaining about how unfair things are, and you stay there. Don't try to better yourself. Don't work harder. Don't try new ideas. Don't, keep getting up. You just fall down, cry about it, and stay down while the government gives you some advantages and gives you some free stuff and gives you... Nothing is more destructive. And, Walter Williams and Thomas Sowell both wrote about this. Walter Williams actually grew up in Philadelphia, very close to where I lived. And his family was just ridiculously poor. And he was black. And the way he describes the unfairness that black people had to go through in this country when there was just open segregation. Well, first of all, there was slavery. It's the most evil institution imaginable. Then there's forced segregation, which is pretty damn evil. And yet, the result of loving, caring, welfare, and free housing, and free this, and we'll take care of you because you've been so abused. The result of telling people that because of these disadvantages and unfairness, they can't possibly get ahead now, so just sit down and let us take care of you. That has resulted in way more broken homes, in way higher illiteracy rates, way higher rates of children being born without both parents around, way higher crime rates. Walter Williams talked about how he lived in the poorest parts of Philadelphia, and they didn't even lock their doors at night because the crime rate was almost nothing. Back in the, when there was still residual, just open, blatantly unfair, segregationist, leftover garbage. And so it's so evil to me. And this is what government always does in every direction it can think of. And it doesn't just do it by race. It does it by everything it can think of. By nationality and men versus women. And right now, all Americans are supposed to be scared of Mexicans. I was just in Mexico. I wasn't scared of them. They're friendly and nice. Yeah, there's some bad people down there. There's some bad people up here. You want me to be scared of Mexicans as a category? No, that's stupid. So the divide and conquer is what government always does all the time. That's the only way it can ever get power. And I'm at least happy to see that it's so obnoxious and it's been so destructive that a bunch of people who, if you ask me, they had a pretty good justification for being bitter and angry. It's the crap that my ancestors had to go through right here, in a country where there was slavery. By the way, there was slavery all over the world. And it wasn't just whites enslaving blacks, it was everybody enslaving everybody for thousands of years. So it wasn't at all a like racist institution, historically speaking. Even though it was largely that in this country, most of the slave owners were white, not all of them. Most of the slaves were black, not all of them. But when a category has been mistreated like that, it's very understandable to me. It doesn't help, but it's very understandable that people in that group would be bitter and angry. It's like, look at the crap that happened to just a few generations back to people like me. And governments feed off of that. It was governments making that happen to begin with. It was governments enforcing the fugitive slave laws. It was government forcing segregation. And now that those things have crumbled, government is saying, don't worry, we'll help you. Run the other way. If government says, we're going to help you as a result of all the unfairness you've been through, run the other way. They're not trying to help you. And the one bright side I see on this, so I'll end on this, is that I think a lot of people, and a lot of black Americans are now coming to realize the Democratic Party doesn't give a shit about you. They view you as livestock. They view you as helpless, worthless idiots that can't possibly be successful unless you let them have power and you let them give you a head start. And that is obnoxious. And that is just ridiculously racist. And that is horribly destructive to human mentality, no matter who you are. And thankfully, I think a lot of people are now starting to see through it on all sides, because they played the divide and conquer things on all sides. And so they want whites and blacks to be mad at each other. And it's awesome to see so many white people and black people going, we're not, the problem isn't between us. The problem is you political bastards trying to rob and control both of us. And more we recognize, like, this isn't a difference that matters. The color of our skin isn't what matters. We're just trying to live our lives and live in peace and peacefully coexist. And you political bastards are trying to divide us. You're trying to create divisions and arguments and conflicts all over the place, by race, by age, by income level, by education level, by nationality, men and women. Every division they can think of, they're trying to create a fight. And at least it's gotten so blatant that I think a lot of people on all sides are starting to go, yeah, we see through your crap now. And the time that that's most difficult to do is when government isn't saying, you've had an unfair advantage, so we're going to stamp you down. Because the people they say that to, it's pretty easy for them to go, well, you suck. You're trying to stamp me down. I didn't even do anything. What's harder is for the people that the government is going to and saying, we're going to help you up, for them to recognize, I don't want your stinking help because you're not trying to help me. And I won't read from it, but I highly recommend people read a thing Frederick Douglass wrote many years ago, guy who grew up being a slave, called What Shall We Do with the Negro? And it was basically him figuring out, and again, if anybody would be justified in saying, give me some reparations and stuff, you just treated me like I was somebody's property for most of my life. Even he, because he was so aware and so thoughtful, even he was like, no, government, just leave us the hell alone. Don't help us. Mr. and Mr. Congressman, don't help black Americans. It won't help. Just leave us alone. He literally went through, like, if we're on our way to work, let us go to work. If we're trying to do stuff, let it just stay out of the way. Stop harassing us. Don't help us. We don't need your help. It's not going to help. Your help is doing positive injury. So I highly recommend, maybe I'll find a link for that and put it below. I highly recommend people read that. Because if somebody who was like a slave 5 minutes earlier had the awareness and the intelligence to realize these bastards who enforce that crap all the time, now they're telling me they want to help me out? No, go fuck yourself. I don't nearly believe you. I don't nearly trust you. And it's good to see more and more people who are the intended recipients of government help recognizing more and more, yeah, that help isn't for your benefit and it isn't going to help you. It's designed to divide and conquer. It's designed to make you feel helpless and dependent. It's designed to make you resent your neighbors who have a different skin color. It's designed to make them resent you because you're getting free stuff that was paid for with their tax dollars. It's designed to create division and resentment. And so the only bright side in this is that I think more and more people of all colors and all races and nationalities are more and more noticing how this game works and noticing how the divide and conquer thing works. And the more people who understand how it works, the fewer people actually fall for it. So, yeah, I would encourage people when you see something like the diversity, equity, and inclusion. All right, what does that actually do to the mentality of the people involved? And you'll see it's not good. It's not about compassion. It's not about fairness. It's not about getting along. It's not even about diversity. It's about creating conflict and resentment and hatred so the political parasites can cash in on that, pitting us against each other and then grabbing money and power for themselves as we're screaming at each other. Stop screaming at your fellow victim of statism and recognize that the state is the problem.